So now that we have all the information we need to render the information on the calendar, let's do so. And we'll start with the blocks. So I'm going to go back to my template, which is right here, and find the part where I'm rendering the TD with a checkbox. So this input type equals checkbox is what appears right here on both of these rows. And I want to display a checked checkbox if there is a block and leave it unchecked if there's not. Now, because this is a form, each of these inputs is going to have a meaningful name. And that's something I'll also take care of in this step. So let's get started. So right now, inside this range rums, I want to, each time I iterate through this, pull the appropriate values for my reservations and blocks out of my data variable. So let's do that to start with. So we'll create a variable called blocks, and that will be equal to, or assign the value of, index from my data. And I can't just go .data here because I'm inside this range. So this variable is not part of the rooms. So I need to somehow tell the template, get the value of .data from outside of this loop. And you do that by putting a $ in front of it. So from index $.data, I want to get the block map, which is named something like this, block map _1 for the first time through. Well, actually, I need to put that as a 2 the second time through, or whatever the room ID is. So what I really need is access to that format.sprintf function that's available to me in regular Go code. And fortunately, there is an alias for that available to us in Golang templates, and it's just called printf. So printf, and I'm going to give it my string with a placeholder, and it's a %d because the room ID is an int, and I need to put in the variable ID, or the value of ID. So that will get block _map _1 for room ID 1, and block _map _2 for room ID 2. So that gets me my blocks. And I'll duplicate this and do the same thing for reservations. But of course that's called reservation _map. Okay, so now I have this information. Now down here, I need to make a determination. And my determination is a really simple one. I'm doing blocks first. If there is an entry in the blocks map for the current date that has a value of greater than 0 for a block, then display a check mark. Otherwise, don't. So I can really just kind of put my if statement right inside this input tag. And what I want to check here is to see, in my block map, do I have an entry for the current date that has a value of greater than 0? So let's just write an if statement. If greater than, and in parentheses, I'm going to put index, block map, or blocks, and I'm looking for the value of printf, and my string will be a string followed by a hyphen, and then another string followed by a hyphen, and then an int. And I'm going to replace those values with, no comma, cur year, which I got from my string map, cur month, which I got from my string map, right up here, cur month and cur year, and then the current index added with 1 added to it. So let's count we have 1 opening, 2 opening, 3 openings, so 1, 2, 3 closing parentheses, and that has to be greater than 0. If that is true, and I'll put an else here, then give this thing a name, give this thing a value, and check it. So let's first of all check it. That's easy. Checked. That will make sure it's checked. And let's give it a name. And this name is going to be, because this is an existing block that I want to remove, I will say remove. I'm going to give it this name, remove block, and I'm going to pass in the room ID, and then an underscore, and then I'm going to pass in the formatted date once again, and that will be printf and %s, %s, %d, and replacing those with the cur year, the cur month, and add index 1. So that's its name, and what's its value going to be? Well, its value is going to be something as simple as value equals index blocks printf again, and the same string, and replacing those values with cur year, cur month, and add index 1. So that's going to get the value from my blocks map, and the value stored for this date, which happens to be a block, is the restriction ID for that block. So that passes in an int. And that's all I have to do for there. Otherwise, if there is no block, I don't want the end there. I want the end. Yeah, I do want the end there. Okay. I'm going to put in the name is going to be not equal to remove block. It'll be equal to add block. And I got a closing tag there. That's better. Name equals add block underscore. Once again, the room ID. And once again, an underscore. And then the date, which I'll just copy and paste because I have it up here correctly. Actually, I have something missing there. Let's see, 1, 2. Oh, I got a missing closing parentheses there. IDEs are so helpful for pointing out errors. So let's copy this whole printf statement right here to here. Copy that. Paste it here. Close our quotation marks, and that should do it. So let's save this. And let's make sure our application is running. I'm going to restart it just to be sure. And see if this works. So this should, when I click on this, should show me any blocks that I have. And it appears to. Let's make sure they're right. So this is on the 8th of December. Let's inspect that element and make sure it's got the correct name. And it's remove block, room ID, and the date. And its value is 2. Perfect. Let's try a different one. Let's try this one on the 12th. And that is remove block the 12th, and its value is also 2. That doesn't seem right. It can't have the same values for those. Let's try one more. See what's going on. The 7th, value 2. So there's something wrong with the value. Let's have a look at the value and see what we're doing wrong there. This is for existing blocks, and its value is index blocks printf cur year cur month add index 1. Well, the only place that can come from is our handler when we actually populate that with value. So what am I putting in there? Restriction ID. That's not what I want. I want the ID. Okay, so the restriction ID is type 2 block. The ID is the ID of the restriction itself. Okay, so let's stop our application, start it again, go back to our web browser, reload the calendar, and this time I should see the correct information. So this is for the 8th. And the name is correct, and its value is 19. That looks better. Let's try another one. That date is the 12th. The 12th is correct, and value of 20. That looks much better. Okay, so that seems to be working the way that it's supposed to. The next step is to display reservations, if they exist. So back in my template, let's come up here and see what we're going to do. What I'm going to do is right after the opening TD tag, and I'm going to give myself some room here, I need to determine, is there a reservation? If there's not, then I'm going to display either a block or an empty check mark. If there's a reservation, though, I want to have something that links to the actual reservations. And I can do that pretty easily because I have my reservation map, and I know that if there's an entry for the current date that has a reservation ID that is greater than 0, then there is a reservation. So we can just say if greater than, and once again, index from our reservations, which is a map, and we're looking for, once again, printf %s-%s-%d, and I'm substituting the values of the current year, the current month, and the index with 1 added to it. And I have 1 opening parentheses, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, and this should be 0. If it's greater than 0, then there is a reservation. Otherwise, else, just do what we just did, because we know it's either a block or something that can be blocked, and that should be an N, not an else. Okay, so let's just save this and reload this calendar, and what should happen is if there's a reservation anywhere in the month of December for either of these rooms, it should just show an empty cell. So let's see if that works. And it does. There's an empty cell for the 2nd and the 3rd there, and there's another one over here for the 16th and 17th. That seems correct. So let's actually just put a link in there, and a link that'll take us to the appropriate reservation. So all I'm going to put in here is an A, href equals, and a link to the reservations page. And that goes to admin, reservations, where you're coming from, and this time I'm going to put cal in there, because we're coming from the calendar. Even though we're not doing anything with it yet, we will in a little while. And then I need to get the value of the reservation, which I can get from my reservations map, index dot or $reservations. And again, I'll use my printf function and use the same string that I have all along and pass in the cur year, the cur month, and add index 1. Okay, now let's see. How many closing parentheses do I need? 1, 2. So that should do it. And close my opening A tag. And in here I'll just put a red R. Span class equals text danger R. And that should give me a link to the appropriate reservation and show an R for every day of the reservation. Let's see what happens. So let's reload this page by clicking on reservation calendar, and I have the R's. And this one should take me to reservation 7 for general's quarters from the 2nd to the 3rd. 2nd to the 3rd. Perfect. Okay. So that gives me the reservation, and it takes me to the correct place. Now what I want to fix next is this part right here, because when I click on cancel, it's going to take me nowhere. So I'm going to go back and find that reservation template and just fix that one little thing, the back button. So let's find under bookings, templates, and we want admin show reservation right here. So down at the cancel part, right here, where is it? Save cancel. So what I'm going to do here is just put an if statement in. If equals source cal else, and then put an end if here. And all I really want to do, if you're on the calendar, is I want to take you back to whatever month you were currently looking at. And there's a really easy way to do that. I'll just take advantage of the browser history. So I'll say a href equals to nothing. Don't link in, don't go anywhere when you click on this, but add an on-click handler. So on-click equals, and I'm just going to say window.history.go and -1, which says go to the previous page in your browser history. And we'll give this the same class of button warning. Try that again. And cancel. So now, if I've got that right, window history go 1, class button warning, that all looks good. Let's try that again. This time I will go back to my reservation, or to my reservations calendar. I'll click on this reservation on the 16th, and it's showing me the correct information, and cancel should take me back one page in my browser history. And it does. And it takes me to the correct month, which is perfect. Because I don't want to redirect them to the calendar page, because I want to make sure they're looking at the correct month. So if I go ahead, I'm on January 2021, I click on the reservation, I click on cancel, and it takes me back to January 2021. That's exactly what I want. Perfect. All right. So the next step is a pretty simple one. We need to be able to check dates, to block them, and remove blocks. So we need to create a post handler for our reservation calendar, and we'll take care of that in the next lecture or two.